Hello friends, and hello people who haven't seen me in 4 years and are just here because they remember my old Onision book review videos. Remember to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Onion Boy's fourth book is not like the first three. The first three were novels, whereas this one is like an autobiography of his teen years. It's called Onision in Real Life, which is the same title as the docuseries that Chris Hansen made about him, so potentially an attempt to disrupt search results or take attention away from that. He originally wrote it chapter by chapter and posted it as like paywalled blog posts on his website, and then once he was done, he compiled it all into a PDF and self-published it. And honestly, I did not care. I was not planning to make this video, I was not keeping up with anything Onision related, and then one day, somebody slid into my Tumblr ask box like, hey, here's the PDF, like, if you even care, just in case. And even then I still wasn't sure whether I wanted to make this video, because Onision drama is like, so 2018 these days. I am a big proponent of letting things naturally die instead of driving the joke into the ground. So do I need to make an Onision book review? No. But people keep asking me to do it, and I know it's because they love those old videos. So yeah, okay, fine. I'll make you your sugary little goblin treat. I will say before we start though, that another reason I was apprehensive to cover this book was because it is an autobiography, it is not fiction. With his novels, I felt absolutely no shame, just completely letting loose, making fun of him, going as hard as possible. You know, it's not as funny when the story is true and there's real life consequences involved. It becomes clear when reading this book that he's not just some funny idiot who writes at a high school level and thinks he's a literary genius. He is a deeply, deeply damaged and unhealthy person. But I also think that whatever mental health issues underlie his behavior do not excuse it. That would be an insult to the many, many amazing and kind people out there who struggle with mental illness. Gregory Onion does not believe that he has any faults. He feels no remorse about anything that he's done. He very much still poses a threat to young women. And if anything, I kind of worry that with him being this persecuted figure on the fringes now and his following dwindling, that following is probably becoming increasingly tight-knit and culty. I think that even though Onision drama is so 2018, like, it's still valuable for someone to voice an alternate perspective. Before we delve deeper than I ever wanted to go into the mind of the Onion, I do have to tell you guys a little bit about this video's sponsor, Helix. Helix Sleep makes premium mattresses and bedding that are customized to fit your unique needs and shipped conveniently to your door. I have had my Helix mattress for almost a year now, and I absolutely love it. It is so much better for my back than the mattress I had before. Everybody's different, and Helix takes that into account. That's why they have a sleep quiz you can fill out about your body type and sleep preferences so that it can match you with the perfect mattress for you. If you sleep in the same bed as a partner, you can put in their information as well, and Helix will help come up with the perfect compromise for the two of you. Based on Kristen and I's results, we were matched with Helix's Twilight Luxe mattress. It is their firmest mattress. I myself do prefer a very firm mattress because I have demons in my spine. The demons are scoliosis. It is extremely easy for me to mess up my day by sleeping like in a bad position or on a bad surface. And I've been sleeping great for almost a year on my Helix mattress. So has my girlfriend, but most importantly, the Helix Twilight Luxe is 100% Bingus approved. My little rats are as lazy and cozy as ever, and I love to see it. You can personalize your mattress even more by adding the Glaciotex cooling cover. It's a great way to keep cool during the hot summer months. The best part is that Helix delivers your mattress right to your door, and shipping is free within the US. It comes in a compact box and then expands once you unwrap it. Just make sure you are smarter than me and actually read the instructions before you try it. It's super easy to set up yourself. As someone who lives in the city in a condo, doesn't drive, I would never do it any other way. With your Helix mattress, you get a 100-night sleep trial. You can sleep on it for exactly 100 nights, just to make sure that you really do love it. And if you don't, we'll pick it up for you and you'll get a full refund. It also comes with a 10-year warranty, and there are financing options and flexible payment plans. I really like my Helix mattress, so if you're in the market for a new bed, I would recommend checking them out. You can click the link below, helix.com/strangeeons, to get 20% off your mattress and 2 free pillows. And now, back to your regularly scheduled content. We're jumping straight into the book. For some time, I have wondered if I am a highly capable writer or if I am a silly fool aspiring for the impossible. Throughout high school, I was deemed a superior writer. Without request, I was recommended to advanced placement solely in the field of English literature by my teacher. My previous books are infamous. There is no question or doubt that is exactly what they are. Infamy means to be well known in a bad way. Oh my god! We're in it again, boys! Let's use Timmy Jones as an example. Timmy Jones is a made-up person, not real, just simply exists for me to use as a fabrication instead of a real person, so I can never get sued or anything for this possibly alleged alias and other aliases I plan to use throughout this book. Timmy Jones is a very popular YouTuber. Really abstract metaphor so far. Alright, so Timmy Jones was accused of murdering his own dog. Insane, right? Accused means he might be guilty, right? Well, no, not at all. Want to know why? Because you, everyone reading this, is a car thief. That's right, by reading this, you are now all accused car thieves. See how easy that was? Accusations are often nonsense when they lack proof, unless you disagree. But why would I care if you disagree? You're a filthy car thief after all. Laughs. As a result, about 3 out of every 10 people who are asked if they hate Timmy Jones do in fact say yes. Rarely do human beings find themselves being open to liking songs, books, videos, or other creations that are produced by a person they hate. For instance, if the 45th President of the United States released another book, would you review it well? You probably wouldn't read it, because you might just be a normal, rational person, but for those who feel their opinion needs to be known, especially if it is a hateful one, they would not only read the highlights on it or watch a like-minded person rip it apart in a YouTube video, but they would also, despite never giving the literature a decent objective chance by reading it in full themselves with an open mind, leave an awful review, dehumanizing the 45th president. Oh my god, you're talking about yourself! While proclaiming themselves superior. How delightfully toxic, right? This is not how a metaphor works. You can't just change the names and then talk about yourself. Anyway, he wants us to feel bad for making fun of him. He thinks if he goes, you right now, you're watching a YouTube video making fun of this book, aren't you? That we'll all go, oh my god, the Onion Man. He has our puny minds figured out. Whatever shall we do? Also, people didn't like his previous books, not because they're bad, but because people just have something against him because of all of these false accusations out there. He says that he can't discuss certain aspects or every aspect of his life right now because certain people don't want him to talk. Certain people threatening him with lawsuits want to silence him. Why are they so afraid of him talking? Why are they afraid of the truth? Because as you know, he always tells the truth. If you were not aware, the Onion Man and his partner are currently facing a lawsuit for grooming a girl named Sarah. They met her online when she was 14. She lived with them when she was 16 and had some questionable boundaries with them. And then she turned 18 and Greg immediately slept with her. So that's pretty gross. He has a long history with teenage girls. Basically, he was one of the OG, like, big popular YouTubers. He made, like, childish toilet humor videos and like music parodies and things like that. Very similar origin to Shane Dawson. However, over the years it became clear that he was using his platform to get into romantic relationships with teenage girls in his audience and then horrifically psychologically torture them.
No one will ever know how much I abuse you. It's ridiculous that you think you'll be successful. How many times do I have to tell you? Everything that you want to put online goes through me first.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Hey, open your mouth. Open your mouth. Open your mouth.
No, Greg, I don't want any.
Open your mouth.
I don't want any, Greg. Ow! Ow, that one really hurt. Greg, I'm wearing shorts.
That candy cord hurt. That candy cord really hurt, Greg.
You told me to get a tattoo saying I'm a liar. Like a tramp stamp. You told me to shave my head. You told me to dye my hair green, shave off my eyebrows, and get an ugly tan. Like, is that not abusive to you?
I really like how dependent you are on me. It makes me feel needed. Like how rarely you can complete a video without me talking 90% of the time.
What do you hate about me?
That you're mean.
That's fair.
And you call me names.
Yep.
And of course, once he started to get a little bit older, take on a little bit of that creepy old man vibe, he exploited his partner's questioning of their gender and sexuality and was like, oh, you might be into women, you want to experiment with women, you want to bring more teenage girls into our relationship? I hear polyamory is so progressive and feminist these days. For him, it seems like any age gap is okay, as long as the people involved are, in his words, fully developed.
Actually, I like people of like
of all ages
or not developed, so long as they're, past puberty.
No such thing as maturity or power dynamics. If a 14-year-old has boobs, it's okay for Gregory to look. He tries very hard to backtrack on that a few times in this book, but it's like, buddy, we were there. We remember you making a series of videos rating your teenage fans' bodies, saying that 15-year-olds were attractive and not children.
Yeah, solid 8.
But Greg, what if she's 15 years old?
Well, last time I checked, we're allowed to have opinions about people.
It's not a perverted thing, it's honesty.
We were all there. It was only like 5 years ago. Anyway, that's the TLDR. There is an ungodly amount of content out there covering this if you want to delve deep into the Onion drama. But anyway, he's not allowed to talk about the ongoing lawsuit, and he is so mad about it. You know who wants people to be silent? The mob. Greg is a great guy and always tells the truth, and he's being robbed of his freedom of speech. There was a whole true crime docuseries detailing his over a decade experience of psychologically abusing his often underage partners, and it reflects neither truth nor crime. He's just got a few wacky exes who hate him. It's crazy, right? His life is so quirky. And now that we are all accused car thieves, we know exactly how it feels. We know how much these baseless accusations, they hurt. Oh my god, Onision, he's just like us, for real. The chapters in this book are not numbered, so I will just be referring to them by title. The second chapter is chapter "The Doctor Suggested I Die." My father was a hardcore Christian. My mother was raised Christian and fell right into my dad's way of life, as he was considered handsome by my mom. Apparently, other women fancied him as well. He was said to be quite the ladies' man. My mom later discovered he was taking part in behaviors with other women she was not aware of. Why do you talk like a pretentious 9th grader? Anyway, this chapter is called "The Doctor Suggested I Die" because he was a fetus with an abnormally large head, and the doctor suggested that his mother have an abortion for safety reasons. Apparently he was born with a 15.5-inch head with a shoulder width of 14.5 inches. No. Was this the size of your head when you were born, Gregory? Okay, maybe he means It says inches! Gregory! This is how you came out of the fucking womb! He said shoulder width of 14 inches. So my brain went head width 15 inches. He probably meant, like, circumference. Anyway. This guy has got daddy issues, absolutely off the charts. He insists on numerous occasions that he has absolutely zero childhood trauma. Nothing bad happened to him as a child. His dad just kind of sucks. After I was born, my father wanted my penis to be modified. He felt it was best that the movable skin surrounding the tip be cut off to match his own penis. My mother came to my rescue. Anyway, he talks about his dick for like way too long. He then goes on to talk about how his parents separated when he was 2 because apparently my father was a child molester who sexually assaulted 2 of my aunts. I need to make it clear, this is not me saying my father did anything. I was not mentally there. I was a 0 to 1 and 2-year-old when he was around the proposed victims. He says he's getting this information from his mother, who said that his father inappropriately touched 2 of his adult aunts, as well as a child. What child? Doesn't matter. What did he do? Greg doesn't know. He just, like, trusts that something terrible happened. He makes a big thing of, like, being respectful of the child victim's identity and, like, not revealing which child. He's obviously talking about his eldest sister, but he never says so exactly. He also says that his father was abused by his mother, so Greg's grandmother, that he slept with his cousin and was generally a redneck creep. You know, Greg admits to having kissed his cousin too, but that's like a normal little mistake. That's not like sleeping with your cousin. Greg has been throwing these accusations at his father for a very long time now. He made YouTube videos about it many years ago, I believe. His father has come forward to say that it's a complete lie. His father, unlike him, has never faced any legal action for any of these accusations. You know, Greg's going on about how he's such a male feminist and he supports the Me Too movement and the improvement of society, but real victims are silent. You know, that's real pain. Like, he knows in his heart that his father was a real predator because the victims never mentioned it, which is super interesting. Chapter "Death All Around Me." Greg doesn't remember his early childhood very well, but it's not because of trauma. He was very manly and strong and not traumatized ever. That's for weak victims. Instead, we get childhood memories like the powdered milk my mom used to insist I drink instead of real milk due to how poor we were. I remember the chunks of unmixed milk. Oh, what a terrible taste. He describes his kindergarten self as a kid cop who was ready to pummel people with his strong fists at a moment's notice for causing disruptions, such as talking to the girl he liked. He says that he learned this from his mother who beat him. And like, he has a real moment of acknowledging how generational trauma actually works. If you want your kids to grow up not hitting others, you can't hit them. If you want your kids not to yell at others, you can't yell at them. If you want your kid to be nice to others, you have to be nice to them. It's basic logic. It's so painfully obvious. His relationship with his mother honestly might be weirder than his relationship with his father, because he then immediately flips into talking about how she's a great person and she taught him to fight, and it's still unclear whether she's like teaching him to throw a proper punch in the backyard, or she taught him to fight as in she set a violent example. My teacher showed the class a picture via a VHS video. What it would look like if a human and dinosaur were merged into one. Naturally, it looked like a horrifying alien. As a result of me, a second grader, being shown this image, I had nightmares for weeks. My mom called in to complain, and they promised not to show the image to young children anymore as a result. Common sense, right? But that's it. That's all I have for my second grade year. I swear my novels make a whole lot more connections than my life story. I promise they don't. The exact same human-dinosaur hybrid story is in one of his novels for no reason. I wish my mind would have recorded all the good things in life. I wish my memories were about sunny days and great video games. But what almost always first comes to mind are the people I loved and lost, what lurks in the dark corners of my childhood, the invisible half-dinosaur monsters hiding in my room, the child-beating monsters in my house, and the worst monster of all, death. This book is like this insane combination of I'm so strong and tough, zero trauma, Greg, and oh, the beauty and anguish of death. Did you know that I met someone once who died? I saw a picture that scared me when I was 7. I am so deep and thoughtful that I am crushed beneath the weight of my massive brain. Chapter The Gang Wanted Me Dead. He's talking about how he hates it when other people brag, and then he goes, you want to hear bragging, and starts being obnoxious. Why did my success happen? It happened because I was an algorithm god. What that translates to, I figured out how to make the system work in my favor, and I milked it for all it was worth, till 2016, when it all changed. But why am I telling you this here now? Because it occurred to me that many people, through their books, like to talk about how much money they've made, how many people care about them existing, how much success they found, and reference how special they clearly think they are as a result of the fruits of their labor. And yet, behind all this talk, we're just little people, sad, scared, hopeless individuals. That's right. Nobody really cares about the Onion Man anymore. His life sucks and feels like a failure, and therefore, the rest of our lives must be meaningless too. If he's not happy and successful, then happiness and success are fake. All celebrities suck and are shallow, and Greg is absolutely not sitting in his little onion basement seething to be famous and liked. You know, the drummer from Nirvana says that he doesn't remember his early childhood very well either, and it's totally normal and not a sign of trauma. Zero trauma, Greg! I do think it's perfectly normal not to have a super clear memory of your early childhood. I don't. I think it's a bit weirder when people do remember their second grade year super clearly. What is weird to me is his insistence that nothing bad ever happened to him as a child. But then a page later, it'll start to feel like the point of this whole book is for us to feel bad for him. One time he fell on a stick and got a cut. Horror. One time he touched a torn metal can and got a cut. One time he fell off his bike. He got a cut! I immediately began screaming and ran to tell my mom. Without much hesitation, my mom piled my sisters and I in the car, and we rushed off to the ER. At the emergency room, my middle sister, you know, the monster, half joking, would mock me, laughing at my condition. She commented on how my face was green, and I looked like I was miserable. You know, just sadistic psychopath things. Yeah, his middle sister is apparently evil for doing things that sound like completely normal sibling behavior to me. Close friends and siblings jab at each other, and if you can believe it, actually fight and don't consider each other monsters for it. When I was a kid, my sister shoved her finger in my nose so hard that I got the only nosebleed of my life. Another time I accidentally dislocated her arm. Like, yeah, kids are little freaks. Somehow Greg has siblings and obnoxious only child vibes. That's really impressive. He says that when he was in 4th grade, all of the Mexican kids in his school were forming gangs, obviously because all of their parents were gang members. I did manage to have a girlfriend in the 4th grade, just like in 2nd grade, only this time it lasted longer than a few minutes, and didn't immediately end after I beat someone up in front of her. This new girl was a very small Mexican brunette who liked me a lot more than I liked her. She insisted I put my arm around her whenever we were out of school and introduced me to her parents like we were gonna get married someday for sure. The only other memory of her, well, of course, being nearly killed because a member of a gang liked her as well. I was tasked by a 4th grader to meet him after school for a fight. I was going to go until my girlfriend told me that he was bringing knives and other friends to jump me. This little boy planned to end my life. over a crush he had on a girl. The type of parents you'd have to wind up a killer at the 4th grade level. The fight never happens though, that's it. He was just convinced that this guy was gonna kill him with knives over a crush. A 4th grade crush. At this point, he's had a stepdad for a while, but his mom and his stepdad end up getting divorced. His mom says that this stepdad was abusive towards her, towards Greg, but he doesn't remember any of it, and to their family pets. But Greg doesn't remember any of that. No, this guy, he was the closest to a real manly father that Greg ever had. He was so cool. He was a real alpha male who rode a motorcycle and did extreme sports. He was so cool, unlike Greg's real dad, who was nice to people. Reminder that huge brain Gregory has his third eye open and lives in objective reality and has never been biased or traumatized because that's for weaklings. Chapter, he lost his children. Much of my childhood we had a neighbor who has since passed away. He was an old man who very much so appreciated my middle sister, the evil one, half kidding, more than me. To give a prime example of who was his favorite visitor, one day I left his house before my sister, I crossed the car bridge over the creek that separated our homes and went inside. When my sister got home, it was revealed that he had given her a bag of candy. It was a bag of candy out in the open that I saw before I left. As I recall, I even asked him about it, but he said he was saving it. This man was waiting for me to leave so that she could have a treat and not me. My middle sister has the personality of someone I would describe as deeply unsettling or charismatic wicked. Someone who would ask, "How's your day?" and say, "You look lovely today," while stabbing you in the chest. She hit him exactly 13 times when they were kids. One time she performed the Heimlich maneuver on him and saved his life, and also she defended him from bullies at school, but that's whatever. She never laughed at his jokes, so she's still evil. As teenagers, he became a lot bigger than her and once physically attacked her for hogging the dial-up internet, after which she mysteriously stopped being rude to him. In that moment, something strange and familiar happened. My middle sister became a super fan of me. Do you remember the boy I beat up in 2nd grade? He became a great friend after I put him in his place. Now my sister was doing it as well. It was as if to make people be civilized and nice to me, I had to slap some sense into them. It was like some nonsense where animals fight each other to find out who the alpha is, and then they suck up to the alpha from that point on. Many humans are like that, still prisoner to their animalistic inclinations. But he makes it clear that he has since learned violence, never the answer. He got into a physical fight with his dad when he was 15, and that was his last fight ever, he says. But just so you know, if he did fight people, he would win, and he is the alpha male. Anyway, he hates his sister for having social skills, making small talk. People give her candy and not him. This book is written just completely stream of consciousness. Like, whatever weird tangent pops into his head, he's just gonna start talking about it. And stream of consciousness is a literary form. Debatable whether it's a good one, but you know, it's a literary form with precedent. It's clear though that he doesn't know that. He has no intentions while writing this. He is literally just lazy. He's just word vomiting whatever comes into his brain. Honestly, if a content creator that I liked and followed made something like this, I would be a little bit offended. It's so lazy and an insult to the audience's intelligence to assume that anyone would consider this literature. Chapter, Kissing and Deeper. Ugh. I've been on both sides of the war. The little boy, destined to be a hero from his traumatic childhood experiences, and just another face in the mob, carrying out the will of the hive mentality. I've been the fist and the bruised face. I've been the bullet and the hole. We humans, we are the enemies of ourselves. Most of us don't know it, however, because many of us have the amazing inability to effectively execute self-reflection exercises, or to paraphrase, we don't often see what everyone else sees when we look in the mirror. There were a couple of girls that I dated in the 5th grade. One was a blonde white girl. She was obsessed with me in the most toxic way imaginable for a 5th grader. My name was written all over her pencil keeper, her binder, everything. She stared at me during class obsessively and talked about me to everyone. Why did I do this? Why did I do this? So anyway, he talks a little bit about his 5th grade girlfriend. He tries to replicate and then dissect the breakup letter that she gave him, and ultimately concludes that her reasoning was stupid, and that he, a 37-year-old man, is much smarter than his 5th grade girlfriend. However, he eventually moved on from this heartbreak. His next love interest was a hot church girl who was 4 years his senior, so a 16-year-old. And I know in your pure mind that I am so sorry I'm going to corrupt right now, you're thinking, oh, obviously it's normal for kids to have crushes on older teenagers and adults sometimes, like that's yay, innocent child crush. No, she reciprocated, which is obviously extremely disgusting and disturbing, but he makes sure to remind you that it's fine because he was a very tall 11-year-old. He was taller than her, so it's fine. Basically, I loved this girl who was 4 years older because I was naturally attracted to those of the opposite gender as me, and unlike the girls my age, she was actually already fully developed. It was at a church camping trip that she initiated things. Anyway, I unfortunately can't go into too much depth about what happened because you have to remember, I was an 11-year-old boy and I don't want to freak people out too bad if slash it feels weird talking about it, so maybe we'll save my more intense experiences for periods in which I was much older. And you know what? That's a correct call because, oh buddy, I hate this. I was madly in love with that girl for some time. Unfortunately for my simple boy mind, there would be no repeats of what happened again with her. Her future was far stranger than a continued relationship with me. Personally, I'd say she'd be happier having stuck with me. In my opinion, I grew up to be a really generous, strong, handsome, and reasonable guy. Or so that's what a lot of people in my life have suggested I am. No, sir. That was a pedophile. She ended up dating an even younger boy after Greg. Zero trauma Greg, coming out here with the amazing takes about how the person who preyed on him when he was literally 11 years old should have just stayed in a relationship with him. Anyway, 6th grade starts. A short Latin girl asked me out when the 6th grade year started, but then dumped me because I thought you had blue eyes. You can bet I was wishing I was still with an older chick. First of all, I hate how the first thing he tells you about every girl is their race, sometimes hair color or height. That is all we know about any of these people as like a first impression. I also dated a girl who had a brother that seemed way too attached. When she and I started going out, he immediately felt it was appropriate to threaten me. If you ever hurt her feelings, I will beat your ass. And that was my introduction to the obviously incestuous brother persona. Laughs. Sorry, not sorry. Overprotective brothers are cringe to me. I had 2 sisters. Never once did I threaten any of their boyfriends or even care who they dated. It was none of my business and I had no interest. Why? Because threatening people if they hurt someone's feelings, that's what you do for a girlfriend, not a little jerk you were raised with. Same goes for overprotective fathers. Talk about creeps. People who love their families, cringe. Obviously, the only reason to ever care about a woman ever is if you're trying to have sex with her. It's not like they're humans or anything. He talks about getting dared to kiss a girl who had gross upper lip hair, but she was still kind of pretty, so he was gonna do it anyway. Why? Why do you care so much about your 6th grade romantic exploits? I do not want to read about every single female specimen Greg ever made eye contact with in middle school, and yet, that's what I'm reading. Why am I reading it? It's time for 7th grade. Back to the 16-year-old church girl. She now has that other boyfriend who is even younger than Greg. He's actually one of Greg's friends, and you know, Greg acknowledges that that's a significant age gap and they would definitely face backlash for it in today's woke world. But notably, he's just not personally condemn it. He seems to have been like a little bit of a confidant for them, honestly. Like they openly acted like a couple around him, but nobody else. Part of what a lot of people consider manly is being with someone who is womanly. It's very hetero cliche, but that's how we were back then. Now, we have non-binary folks, the more popular concept of avoiding body shaming at any costs. Flat-chested women are women too, and I'm not saying that's inaccurate. The horrors of chauvinism jammed down our throats and political correctness taking hold of our free speech like a snake eating its own ass. The reality, we were boys. We felt how we felt. Diverse beauty standards, woke bullshit. Real men are cishet to the max. Also, of course kids have crushes on teenagers and adults. That is normal, that happens all the time. The problem is when those older, more mature people reciprocate. I also had managed to get a girlfriend in 7th grade, multiple ones. The first I had was a Middle Eastern girl who was in my band class. The relationship I had with her was very short, and I remember pretty much none of it. We didn't kiss, we didn't hold hands, and we basically didn't even act like we were dating in any other way. However, we did call ourselves girlfriend and boyfriend, so that's how I see it. After we broke up, as I recall, due to my boredom, I asked out another girl. She was the first girl I held hands with outside of the 4 years my senior lady. And that girl that he held hands with, you know, he thought she was really the one. But she ends up breaking up with him because her friends hate him. The friends of girlfriends not liking me, a theme to come again in my life. It was no surprise either. Before me, all the girlfriends-to-be ever did was spend time with their friends. Now that I'm around, all they want to do is spend time with me. Eventually build a family and see those friends once a week instead of every day. I know, what a monster I am. Anyway, again, it was her loss in my opinion. I was a loyal boyfriend. I was a good guy, and I was honest/true to my significant other, whoever that was at the time. Hope she had a great time being single with her single friend. Must have been a blast. This is about 7th grade hand-holding. I hate this book. It is such a hellscape of unprocessed trauma and toxic masculinity, and why does he think that 7th grade handholding is so interesting still? Regardless, opens juice box before continuing to type. That summer went just fine. I am a shell of a person. Hey guys, how are you guys holding up? I'm holding up kind of bad. Welcome to my ASMR intermission. In 8th grade they move, and Greg finally gets his own room, and in that room I gradually became a hateful gothic and extremely atheist maniac. ... Kidding. I was actually a great kid still, but I did eventually fantasize about murdering my peers in a blaze of gunfire. I was a teenage white boy living in the gloomiest state in the USA, come on! In almost no other book will you find someone is this honest. Instead, they fill you with all their, oh boy, I acted perfectly pretty much my whole life, and I promise I'm not damaged or anything, la-di-da. No, that is not the book you're reading. Sometimes it is. I mean, it at least started that way. It seems like maybe that's the book you originally wanted to write, but you didn't go back and edit the beginning, so it still reads like that. Anyway, I guess zero trauma Greg is no more. He was a wannabe school shooter as a teenager. If writing this book, if writing all of this down, actually the process of it did make him look at it and realize it was okay to use the word trauma, like, that's amazing. It does seem like maybe something clicked while he was in the process of doing this. And in that case, it's like, okay, then you have some responsibility to, be honest. That word is so tainted. That word is so tainted now in the context of the most honest YouTuber. If you realize that parts of his childhood were in fact extremely traumatic and damaging, like, he should have gone back and edited the book to reflect that. I was, in fact, quite angry a lot. I was, however, quite serene when hanging out with my friends, of course, especially the female types. I celebrated women, even worshipped them. It was, in hindsight, gross. Women, in fact, suck just as much as men. Those who say differently are either lying or simply lack life experience. Chapter Assault and Weed. 8th grade is when Greg starts really developing his random XD personality in ways such as watch TV, listen to music, play video game. I was a Grand Theft Auto 3 obsessed, metal-loving, baggy jeans wearing rocker kid. If you don't know what a rocker is, they were essentially like emo kids without the ridiculous makeup, and instead of wanting to harm ourselves, we would fantasize about being badass all the time. That, and we didn't do the bangs over my eyes thing. We loved crazy hair spiked, pulled back or to the sides, but never all sad or girly looking. I'm convinced to this day the most any dude with dyed black hair who wears makeup in a serious context would probably happily be a bottom in any romantic relationship. Zero alpha male energy from those guys. There were some girls that he didn't date but wanted to. There was one girl he did date but broke up with because she was a bad kisser, and he thinks that kissing is like this magical, instinctual dance of tongues or fucking whatever. So there obviously must have been something fundamentally wrong with her brain for her to be a bad kisser. Laughs. He's talking about comparing dicks with Shane Dawson. Disgusting. Great. Oh wait, he remembered another middle school girl that he had a crush on. She looked like a real woman. Potential wife material. Someone I could see myself having a white picket fence with someday. Pale skin, freckles, brown hair, about 5 feet 5 inches. So Greg is on the wrestling team, and she ends up being at one of those wrestling matches. But he has to take his shirt off for the wrestling match, and he's so embarrassed that she might see the acne on his back that he just loses the match as quickly as possible so that she won't see, and ends up quitting the wrestling team altogether. Of course, the acne just came from my body being hit with a wave of testosterone. He refers to a pad as a bloody vaginal care device twice. Regardless, 8th grade was when I met my new best friend. He was the first guy to offer me pot, and the first of many guys I would say no to. Say no to drugs, lest they corrupt your vegetarian body.
This is my vegetarian body!
His best friend loved hanging out with his best friend so he could go over to his house and talk to his sister and his sister's friends. Normal friendships that Greg is definitely capable of having. Anyway, I still had my virginity intact. Maybe next year, right? Chapter STD and Pregnancy Scares. He describes all of his teachers in the most, judgmental and objectifying ways possible. Another class I had belonged to a boring, short, fat, old, gray-haired math teacher who was barely worth mentioning as he had zero personality. Another teacher I had was a hot 24-year-old woman. I desperately wanted to sleep with her. She wore glasses, had pale skin, light brown hair, and was my favorite English teacher ever. We had a weirdo art teacher who was pretty typical for an art person. older, pulled back brown hair, wearing ridiculous hippie outfits. Then there was my journalism class where I also wanted to bang my teacher. She was about 45 years old, had pale skin, brown hair, and so on as well. I think realistically, both teachers would totally sleep with me / date me if I was older. They looked at me in a flirtatious way and I loved it. He keeps going on about how these teachers obviously want him because they're nice to him. Insane. His sister introduced him to a girl who liked him, but he didn't want to date her because she had acne. He extensively justifies why it's okay to judge someone for having acne on their face, but not on their back like he had. He describes the appearances of a bunch of other girls who he's breathed in the same room as once or twice, but none of them want to date him, so he ends up asking out the girl with the acne, and being the literal empath that he is, he soon finds it within himself to look past her acne. Sometimes. We were both big into literature, that and we loved talking on the phone to each other. In fact, I bet this girl and I talked on the phone longer collectively than I ever talked on the phone with anyone in my entire life. Soulmates? I don't really believe in that stuff anymore, but this girl and I, we had something special. Then some random guy calls her ugly and Greg is so embarrassed that he breaks up with her. And while they're broken up, she sleeps with someone else. And she slept with people before in the past. Oh my god, what a sociopath and a slut. Nevertheless, he cannot function without a girlfriend, so he asks her out again. He says that he broke up with her overall 7 times throughout their relationship because he doesn't like that she smokes weed. He also starts dressing more goth for her because she is a goth. Yes, she lied to me about smoking cigarettes. Yes, she slept with someone after only being broken up with me for a few days. But you know what? My heart didn't care about any of that. Whenever I broke up with her, I regretted it and desperately needed her back. My ability to forgive people even to this day is overwhelming if I know deep down that they love me. You're talking about unhealthy codependence. You're talking about not having any personality or interests besides being in a relationship. A story about 2 teen goths in like a dramatic and passionate and crazy relationship. It's not surprising or unique and it's not bad, but the fact that he is a 37-year-old man looking back on this like, yeah, that was romance. That was real love. I have not recontextualized any of my experiences since I was 14. Bro, they have sex for the first time behind a Mormon church, which I gotta admit, it's pretty cool. Connecting to this person, finally feeling like I belong with someone, and am accepted to the point of them wanting to simulate breeding with me. Talk about the highest level of human validation. Oh my god, I need to go read My Immortal as a palate cleanser. To explain the STD and pregnancy clickbait title of this one, the STD thing, shaving mishap. The pregnancy scare, goth girlfriend called him to say that her period was late, and they briefly had to confront the possibility, and he's like, yes, I will step up and be an alpha male father. And then she gets her period like 3 hours later and it's fine. Chapter Threesomes and Fistfights. Gregory Onion is a crusader for justice and a literary genius. Everyone who has ever criticized him is just doing it for profit and attention. That's the real sad thing, you know? Not that he's broke and spiraling and has resorted to ranting about his childhood on a paywalled website to support himself and then putting it all together and trying to sell it again as a book. No, it's his critics that are really the sad people. Frauds who want to silence him, but they've got nothing. The law is on his side. Okay, Greg Elin, why are there so many things you're not allowed to talk about in this book? Is it because somebody might have reason to take legal action if you did? If you have done something or shared with me something that you don't want people to know about, you should not have done it or shared it with me. When you did that, you gave that information to me, and it became mine as well, because it is now part of my life, and I have every right to talk about my life / the things that impact it. So what you're saying is you're a shit friend who will exploit anything, no matter how personal, for social media views. And in fact have done that to your loved ones many times. The Bible is wrong about a lot of things, but when they talk about the person without sin being the first to cast the stone, it implies that no one should ever judge anyone, because everyone is disgusting on some level. For me, what I'm disgusting for, me, Gregory Onion, I think I know, but I'd love to hear him say it. It's my issues with reacting to me feeling like my significant other doesn't love me by breaking up with them. I have a constant mentality where I essentially relationship panic and reject people the moment I think they don't really love me. By which he means when he thinks he can't control them anymore. But that's it. That's his greatest flaw in life, in all of his 37 years. Casper, get the fuck off my desk, baby, you. But that's it. That's his greatest flaw. He just wants to be loved unconditionally, and he can't handle romantic rejection. Baby boy, if you want to hang out, you gotta sit on my lap instead, baby boy. This is where the camera lives. Baby boy. This is why. This is why. We have rats. We have rats in this kitchen. A lot of people will write books about themselves and leave out all of their flaws and mistakes. They won't tell you their real opinions or take part in potentially divisive speech because their goal is primarily success/profit. I want to produce something special, not just a product. I get it. That's why you key smashed a bunch of stream of consciousness nonsense about girls you dated in middle school and times you fell down as a child and are trying to sell it as your autobiography with the same title as a true crime documentary about you that you don't like. This is the height of artistic integrity right here. And then he gets back on this exact same rant about how people want to silence him. And well, why would an honest person ever want someone else not to be able to speak? And then he goes, well, there was that time when I forced all my friends and romantic partners to sign NDAs, but that was just normal. It was just so that nobody would say anything they didn't mean in the heat of the moment. What the fuck, sir? These were not real NDAs, I don't think, by the way. He would just like print off random contracts from the internet as if they were legally binding and make people sign them. Alright, we're going back to the 8th grade. Some people online seem to have the idea that when I was in high school, I was a slut. No, I wasn't. Not by a long shot. The concept was shared, spread, and people believed it. In reality, the only person I had slept with in my first year was one person, the girl much of last chapter was dedicated to. But it brings you to the question, why do people who spread rumors online think I am capable of sleeping with countless people? Not only morally, but you really think I'm that attractive? All the haters desire me carnally. In this chapter, a gay friend of the goth girlfriend confesses his undying love for Gregory via love note. Casper, no. I had reacted to his note in a very good way for the time period. I thought, oh, he's gay. I feel sad because I'm straight and I have to let him down / maybe hurt his feelings with rejection. In that grocery store, I did in fact let him down. I told him I'm straight, but if he wanted to kiss me there in that store, he was welcome to. As you likely know very well, I'm pretty open / supportive of gay people and show serious gay tendencies myself. The guy reacted in a way that was not expected. Standing there in his goth clothing, about 4 inches shorter than me, painfully pale skin, he looked around nervously and then back at me. After some thought, he said, no, never mind. After I told this goth guy who said he was in love with me that I was straight but he could still kiss me in front of everyone, he realized that moment he was ashamed of being gay and he didn't want others to see him be gay. What other reason could there be? Maybe he doesn't see people as objects and would rather kiss someone who actually reciprocates his feelings? This friend later turned preppy, became very Christian and homophobic, so naturally Greg assumes that he was so hot that he fried this guy's brain. No, you turned him straight. The thought of kissing you was literally so repulsive that you turned him straight and homophobic. One day in class, Greg's hero complex comes out when he's defending a hot 20-something teacher from a boy who's being annoying. The boy was like a live stream troll commenter in real life that you just couldn't block. So Greg says, I'm sorry you can't comprehend the concept of learning, but that's what we're currently trying to do. So if you could fuck off, that would be great. I closed the door on his shocked face and returned to my class, where the hot teacher looked at me concerned. The annoying guy is a football jock, so naturally, since this is 90s high school, he has to beat up the goth kid who said a fuck word to him. Greg gets beat up. He gets beat up by a jock. And a crowd gathers around to watch this happening. And that's a genuinely fucked up and dehumanizing experience to have. However, he immediately goes from 0 to this is why we have school shootings. You're lucky I'm not weak and mentally ill or else I would totally be a school shooter. I'm literally the Joker right now. He talks about how sick and evil they are for enjoying other people's pain because there's nothing the Onion loves more than an obnoxious moral high ground. I spent the rest of the day in the nurse's office, but fortunately I had a visitor. My girlfriend decided to drop by, and she did an incredible job with comforting me. See, that's something that helps prevent school shootings. Having a girlfriend. I know some will take what I'm saying as super messed up, but welcome to reality. Yes, snowflakes, welcome to reality. Welcome to the mind of Gregory Onion. Also known as objective reality. Oh my god, I'm gonna fucking cry blood. I'm gonna cry blood like Ebony Darkness Dementia Ravenway from looking at this fucking screen. While they're in the nurse's office, a minor earthquake hits, and Greg deadass implies that it's meaningful. It's like the earth validating his pain or some shit. Did you know that school shooters have all the wrong tools? Guns. But none of the right ones. Love. In the parking lot stood the boy who had beat the hell out of me, waiting about 500 meters away. He smiled at me, taunted me from afar. My girlfriend flipped him off with her little goth arm high in the air and said to me, "What a fucking idiot. Ignore him." I was filled with pride, and I hugged her. He was alone. No girlfriend with him. In the grand scheme, no matter how much he punched me, he didn't walk away a winner. Winning to me isn't having money. It isn't having power. It's owning women. I'm sorry. It's love. He talks about his girlfriend's female friends, describes all of their bodies and how they obviously all want to get with him, but he's loyal. He's loyal to his girlfriend. There's this astounding moment, which of all of the fucking shit, garbage, trash in this book, there's this moment that stands out to me where he is hanging out with one of his girlfriend's friends who he is attracted to, and she obviously wants him because everybody wants him. But they're both in different relationships and they have no desire to act on it. And he's like, whoa, this is almost like having a friend. It's kind of cool. You almost cracked it. You almost cracked it. A tiny little suspicion crossed through his mind once in 2004 that it might be possible to value women for anything other than their bodies. He talks about a time that he broke up with his girlfriend for paying more attention to her friends than him at school. He acknowledges that this was probably a regrettable asshole action to take. He just couldn't handle the feeling that she might like anything on the planet more than him, which isn't in itself a problem, you know, he just wants to be loved, but he was young and stupid and didn't know how to control his deep, passionate emotions. Basically, if you have not gathered yet, I was really unenthusiastic about teenage cliches I was expected to partake in. I refused to do drugs. I didn't want to party. And all I really wanted to do was play video games, design websites, write poems, cuddle, and have sex with my girlfriend. To a lot of people, my desires in life sound awesome. It works for many, but my girlfriend, she liked some of that, but also wanted to live the drug life. She wanted to live as if she was in a rock band, and that was not me at all. Sorry, Gurgles, your 9th grade girlfriend is way cooler than you. Anyway, that's ultimately why he ends up dumping her, but every time he sees her afterwards, he's still overcome with love and lust, and he will forever cherish her. She got old and gained weight and had kids too young and then got divorced, and her spark in her eyes went out, by the way, so he's not missing out on anything. But she took his virginity and he will always cherish her. What an amazing person. In fact, while I wish her well a little more than most, I do wish everyone reading this well too. Everyone not reading it, I wish them the same. I learned in life, wishing people ill is a crime upon yourself. Oh, Greggy, you wish me ill. Don't even fucking lie. I know you do. We can admit our true feelings here. This is a safe space. Oh god, I'm gonna fucking puke. Am I gonna keep that in the video? Oh, let's find out. Chapter 911. Greg starts fighting with his mom to the extreme that he decides to go and move in with his dad. He starts describing, essentially fat-shaming his stepmother for like an entire page, which naturally segues into unsolicited dieting advice for everyone reading this. You know, if you want to be fit and healthy like Gregory Onion, you better take his advice, or else he might not find you attractive, and then what will you do? What will you do if Onision doesn't find you attractive? Die, I guess. There are people who are combative, who don't understand why no one understands them or can be chill with them. Those people are called socially inept. It's him! He's talking about himself! There are people who know how to talk to others, are not combative, and try to figure out what type of conversation would be best for each person. Those are called sociopaths. Kidding! But my recent strategy to talking to people is simply avoid the triggers. If you know talking about something will upset someone, you don't do it. Whoa! That is how socially likable people generally behave. They try to bring out the best in each other, instead of just being jackasses who have to be right all the time. That's really good. That's really good, Gregory. That's all true. You done cracked it. Anyway, so he's moved in with his dad. His dad is very religious, and Greg is, of course, a scary atheist goth teenager. Obviously, he feels that his dad wants to change him, wants to buy him new clothes and get him a haircut, but Greg says no to the haircut. All sounds like pretty standard teenage angst. He asks out a girl who he thought might be hot from across the room, but by the time he goes over to ask her out, he realizes she ain't cute up close. But now he's like already in front of her and he has to ask her out even though she's ugly. And he's like, you know, maybe it'll be fine. My last girlfriend was ugly, but she had a beautiful soul and I loved her anyway. And then this girl makes him read her handwritten WWE RPF. And he's like, ew, OMG, she's like lame and gross. Though he stays in a relationship with her and tries to have sex with her, even though he finds her gross and lame and repulsive and smelly. The examples of me trying not to hurt people's feelings when I'm in a relationship with them, despite how unhygienic or gross they are frequent. I really sell myself short sometimes, and I really need to have higher standards. PSA to everyone, wash your clothes and shower daily. I am literally the kind of guy who would ask a girl to marry him if I thought it would avoid offending her. I'm an idiot. Oh my god, how quirky. What a cool way of saying you're just fucking desperate and cannot function without female attention. Also, I thought he broke up with his last girlfriend like 7 times for smoking weed and having friends. Yeah, I think the real problem is that if he had higher standards, he might be forced to be single for extended periods of time, and that's just absolutely unacceptable. Anyway, on that cheerful note, girls trying to get with much older men, it's horrifyingly common. They'll try to trick older men by lying about their age or otherwise scheming, only to play innocent. It happens constantly. We're talking disgustingly young people fantasizing about men in their 40s. Watch out for girls, they're perverts. Guys too. I mean, I was doing the exact same thing with my teachers. Teenagers are disgusting and devious. Why do you think school shootings happen? Oh my... Someone's got a hyperfixation because the shooter is demented and the students they want to shoot are often bullies / devious / evil as well. Watch out, they're pretty much all crazy. That means if you're an adult, avoid them like the plague, because they are. Yeah, you'd know from experience, huh? Funny how this is phrased like useful advice, as if any adult would ever consider being friends with teenagers. I'm pretty sure most people I know, as soon as we hit 17 or 18 and left for university, we were like, high schoolers are babies. And it's true. The moment you leave high school and gain real life experience, the maturity gap between you and someone in high school becomes massive within a year. No adults have the problem of resisting the local teens, except for him. Another girl caught my eye. She was a red-haired, freckled, pale-skinned, stop, I don't have a type, I just need more ebony ladies in my life, and they were rare where I lived. Girl with beautiful eyes. She was 1 year older than me, score, and was willing to hang out with me after school, which was awesome. The problem? She hurt my masculinity. Deeply. When I brought her over, she seemed really happy to be hanging out with me. I thought she was out of my league. As a lot of people say, I don't know how attractive I am. Still not sure what they mean. Guess I'm an idiot. Anyway, turns out this girl had, an unrealistic idea of how large dicks are supposed to be. Gave him a scare about the averageness of his own. And since Gregory Onion is a big fan of facts and logic, we get to hear lots of cool penis facts from the first page of Google. In 10th grade, his class watches 9/11 happen live on TV, and Greg's like, yeah, didn't really affect me much. I didn't know what the World Trade Centers were. It was like we were watching some mystery buildings on fire in class. Lol, whatever. What a shitty 9/11 experience. There are no extreme emotions, no insane reactions, no antics or special stories. It's just a boring, oh yeah, I saw that in class, and yeah. Why? Because that's how reality works for most people. Nothing in this book is here just for the sake of entertaining others. This is just a book about what I went through, and some things just weren't very interesting. You would think that someone with such sensitivity to human suffering, someone with such a hero complex, might care regardless, but apparently not. I didn't really gain my interest in war films, patriotism, or any of that till a couple years later. Oh goody, I can't wait for that part. He's talking a bit about the condition of living with his father and his stepmother, but it's all like, when the parents divorce, the father doth tend to the elementary condition of the female stepmother. Bitch boy, just say what your parents were like. Why does it have to be reflective of some deep universal truth all the time? Right, I'm sorry. This is a book about objective reality, even if you snowflakes can't handle it or whatever. Greg meets this prep girl, and at first he's not interested in her, but then she laughs at one of his jokes in class, and he's like, wait, she also showers. It did not take long for me to ask her out, and for her to say yes. Like my simple idiot self, I fell in love with her quick. I was with a girl who was muscular, but had a reasonable sized chest, great hips, and was all around what I, as a boy, was designed to reproduce with. You may not be aware, but the primary life mission of most every straight male on Earth is to reproduce with straight females. Don't argue with me. Argue with science. I think we need like a counter in the corner of the screen or something of lines that would probably displease Greg's transmasculine non-binary partner. Your life mission is to reproduce with straight females. That's interesting. For most breeders like me, if you find a woman who looks like she can more than sufficiently carry your children, it's a huge plus. If I stayed with my girlfriend at the time, we definitely would have had plenty of kids together down the line. One day at lunch, they're sitting with her friends, she's talking to them, Greg starts trying to talk over her and get her attention and just generally being annoying. She ignores him because that's weird and rude, you absolute toddler, and he storms off dramatically and gives her the finger. I told her why I was upset, how I felt like I was nothing to her because she prioritized her preppy friends over me. I knew what was coming in life. I was to marry, have kids, and settle down. Why did she not have the same general priorities as me? So his prep girlfriend asks how she can prove her love to him, and he says to dress goth for a day. So she does, and when he sees her, tears form in his eyes at having been able to so effectively mold a female to his will. They're super in love and everything is magical and great, and they have sex. He invites her over one weekend, but it turns out that his dad and his stepmom want him to come on some road trip or something with them instead. So after sadly letting my girlfriend know the weekend plan wasn't happening, I hopped in the car and began blasting my Marilyn Manson, Rob Zombie, and Nine Inch Nails music. This music tends to be pretty anti-religious and started pissing off his father. If you're going to go out of your way to prevent me from holding my other half, I at least get to listen to my favorite music on blast. Again, sounds like very normal teen angst. That sounds like something an angsty teenager would say. But Greg is a 37-year-old man who's like, yeah, this was justice or some shit. My father tried to say something to me, and I, in response, presented him with my middle finger. He shouted, "What's your problem?" loud enough for me to hear it over my current song. I took off my headphones, now blasting Dragula by Rob Zombie, and said, "My problem is your fucking bitch wife." His father then pulls over the car and launches himself into the backseat and starts choking Greg. And they're yelling and spitting on each other as Greg is being choked, and it's all disgusting. But then Greg is able to kick him off with his powerful legs, showing him who the real alpha male is. But his dad gets out of the car and goes around and pulls Greg out of the back seat. The stepmom joins in by trying to pull off his boots so that he can't kick his dad anymore, which is ridiculous, and he says so. And, real life fights are often ridiculous and inelegant. I have no way of knowing what parts of the story are really true or not, but I'm sure that bits of it are true, and that strikes me as a grain of truth simply because it is so ridiculous. Greg runs away from the fight, but his dad calls the police, who show up and arrest Greg. Not shockingly, his father's version of events is very different. That's crazy. It's almost as if they're probably both liars who are trying to make themselves look good. And the truth is somewhere in the middle that makes them both look shitty instead of anyone being the helpless victim here. Greg's apparent proof that his dad is lying is that his dad once said that this happened when he was 17, but it actually happened when he was 15. His juvenile hall records clearly say that it happened when he was 15. I guess if I really wanted to nitpick, I could say if those records exist, but assuming those records exist, sure, it happened when he was 15. That proves it happened when he was 15, but not anything about who initiated what or what really happened, who threw the first punch, whatever. I am wasting brain cells dissecting this. I don't care. I am not taking a side between the Onion and the father Onion. Chapter Between Two Cells. Greg gets hauled off to juvie, where he gets super constipated and has to stick his fingers up his ass. He's just so brutally honest. This book is about reality, and he doesn't care if you make fun of him because this is his truth. Pulling poop out of his ass in juvie. If you can't handle it, then fuck off, preps. As a result of his actions, his cell starts smelling so bad that the other inmates start gagging, which he finds very amusing. Juvie is really fun, actually. He feels so free without his parents and their suffocating rules and religion. He gets to shit everywhere, eat delectable prison brownies with the sprinkles on them, play cards with other edgy delinquents. One of them called him a dumbass one time, though, and that was pretty mean. His juvie experience ends up lasting a whole weekend. Apparently he was brought in Friday night, so we had to wait until Monday morning for the judge to see him. And then on Monday morning he sees the judge and immediately gets released on 1 month of house arrest. But hey, he got a lit juvie weekend out of it. He says that once he got home, his father became extremely abusive, would threaten to call the cops on him over small things like him not wanting to eat his dinner. Greg's got a lot of parenting advice, which is interesting. His oldest kid is 10 this year, right? They can keep them off of the internet all they want while they're baby children, but in a few years, these kids are going to be able to speak for themselves, and I am scared what we will hear. He starts talking about school shootings again, saying that the Columbine parents had no right to, like, speak about their experience or write books about their experience because they're obviously the ones who are responsible for their kids turning out the way that they did. His mom ends up getting custody of him back. He rants about how evil his dad is, how much he hates his dad for, like, all of the same reasons that he mentioned before. He's so mad about the documentary, though. Why is it that he thinks that he has the right to tell all of his loved ones' secrets in monetized YouTube videos, but the moment anyone turns around and speaks about their experiences with him, it's just the vilest, evilest thing that any human could ever do to another? So I think I mentioned before that, like, many, many years ago, Greg made videos talking about how his father was a predator. At that time, he's like, nobody online really knew who his father was. He was just talking about his father, who was effectively anonymous, but his father came forward and participated in the documentary. So about that, Greg has to say, apparently the lawyer told my dad that because I didn't say his name, he couldn't sue me. So then he goes on the documentary, his full updated face and his wife's in plain view, sending out a loud and clear, "Hey everyone, you know the guy who says his mom and family members accused me of sexually violating multiple people? Well, I'm the accused guy and this is my wife. Look at us! What kind of a moron tries to sue his son for giving his unknown father bad PR after he realizes he can't successfully sue him, instead exposes his own identity to the world, not only losing certain rights because they're now public figures, but also attaches their literal face to the accusations? Someone who is innocent of those accusations? I'm not saying he is. I am not taking sides between the Onion and the Father Onion. I'm just saying his behavior makes sense in the context that Greg's accusations are total bullshit and he's not worried about anyone ever believing them. Chapter Girl Problems. I was set to go back to Lakes High School, but more importantly, I was destined to encounter some more interesting characters. This chapter itself is about numerous people I encountered during this time, specifically females. It's time to talk about his next one true love. The girl was my age, normal height for a girl, long straight brown hair, normal Caucasian complexion, with vibrant eyes, and a smile always painted on her face. Cool, dude, she sounds like a haunted doll. We looked like we were designed to get married to each other, settle down, get the white picket fence, full family, and so on. It just made sense. After I had a couple of conversations with her, that would be it. So that was the first time they ever met, casual first impression of her. The second time that they meet, they make out in the woods and then start dating. He's trying to, like, describe their relationship, but he keeps jumping around in time. And he's like, oh yeah, she ended up becoming such a loser stoner. We had so many romantic phone conversations. She was stolen from me by another man. Sex with female. Years later, I would want nothing to do with her. Tell me the story normally. A little bit of foreshadowing is fine, but you can't do this every paragraph. I feel like that scene in Labyrinth where she's like falling through this pit of hands and they're all grabbing her, but all the hands are like weird tangent onion brain thoughts. This is a terrible read. Greg and this girl live pretty far from each other, so they can never find the time to consummate their relationship. And of course, how are they ever supposed to take it seriously if their relationship is not consummated? Apparently, she had lost her virginity to a man who was 25 when she was only 15. Why? Because he had the car, the place, everything. I was just a kid who lived with his mom and had no transportation, so I lost my chance to have a lifelong relationship with her and felt a little cheated on. Obviously, she always wanted to get back with him, but he didn't want her anymore because she does weed now. Gross. I had a conversation with her at some point about her being with that much older man. She said she didn't regret being with him and that she taught him a lot of things. I thought to myself, this is so creepy. But to each their own. Buddy, my boy, you dated teenagers in your mid to late 20s. You did that thing. You crossed state lines to make sure it was legal to have sex with them where you were. Because it wasn't legal everywhere for you to have sex with your girlfriends because they were so young. You went through so much effort to have sex with teenagers. And then you did it again in your 30s with a girl you'd known since she was 14, immediately after she turned 18. You are telling lies to cover your smelly onion ass. But we can all smell it. You can't escape the onion smell. He talks about an instance in a college English class where they were assigned to read a text with incestuous content in it, and the teacher asks the class how they responded to this text. Greg is so committed to justice that even though he is heavily attracted to this teacher, he criticizes her anyway. I think it's disgusting for us to read about an incestual man trying to get with his niece. It was a gross piece of work and it wasn't worth reading. The professor lost her shit. In response to me saying what I did about the assignment, she got very demanding of me. She clearly thought the story was brilliant. Maybe she had fantasies about her own uncle or something. That's right, guys. We should never consume media that makes us uncomfortable. The only media worth consuming is that which is perfectly morally pure, because of course, if something appears in fiction, it means that the author uncritically condones it. Most art sucks, objectively, including music, movies, and comedy. Most people aren't talented, funny, or otherwise blessed. Unlike Gregory Onion, who is so artistically blessed in every field.
I loved you and you loved me. Or you said you did. Yeah, you said you did. I believed you did. We were gonna have a kid. Now I think of it. Yeah, I think of it.
Then he starts talking about like sexuality and kinks, using science and data, by the way. You know, he looked at some people's results from an online quiz that's supposed to tell you how vanilla you are one time. So Gregory Onion, he knows like all the kinks. The same way when you're in like 2nd grade and you know all the swear words, he knows every kink. And most of them are super gross, by the way, but especially age play. Super gross. Super not covering his ass about any accusations at all right now. Great example. I once dated a 20-something-year-old who literally asked me to pee on her. I was like, wouldn't that mess up the bed? I had no idea how to process that request. To me, she seemed a little too comfortable. A comfort level I could never imagine being. No one had ever asked me to pee on them in my entire life. This was our first time together, and she seemed like it was the equivalent of winning a new car or something. There was a dazzle in her eye when she asked me to pee on her, and I was just like, what? What? Ah, in my head. The next morning, the same woman said, "You're not a real man," when I asked her to cuddle with me and cried because she wouldn't, only to storm out of the hotel, leaving me there crying how she didn't care about me. You hooked up once and kink-shamed her. Why would she care about you? Anyway, back to English class. This is still all relevant to his English class one time. Greg gets asked to leave for insisting that the class assignment is disgusting and inappropriate and not worth engaging with on any level. As an English student, I wrote many essays tearing apart gross characters that I hated and talking about books that I didn't like. I found that actually much easier than talking about books that I loved and had no criticisms of. That's a really valid thing to do at the university/college level. Engage with what you don't like about the text or what makes you uncomfortable about the text. Use your gosh darn brain instead of throwing a fit because you found an opportunity to feel morally superior to people. But no, never mind. That's crazy. Why would I even suggest such a thing? Obviously, it was this professor bringing her incest kink into the classroom. Greg's like, no, I'm not gonna leave. I'm not gonna leave the classroom just for sharing my correct opinion. And the teacher's like, okay, fine. And he's like, you know, it's actually so refreshing that a woman admitted that she was wrong. It was wrong of her to ask me to leave and she backed down from fighting me. What was she supposed to do? Drag you out herself? Like, of course she's just gonna stop engaging with you. Later on, she gave me a decent grade for that class, and we had an odd conversation in private that gave overwhelming, if we were the same age, we'd be dating right now vibes. Literally every time a woman speaks to him, he's like, yeah, this obviously means she's trying to sleep with me. As if somehow, just because every time he speaks to a woman, it's because he's trying to sleep with her. It must go the other way. This is a normal way that normal, well-adjusted people think. Chapter, Dating and Religion. Hold on, wait, he just remembered about something that he forgot about a few chapters ago. There was another female. You realize you can, it's your book, it's your thing. You can go back, you can edit it, you can change things that you wrote before. You can rearrange, you can make it make more sense. You can edit the book, you can edit. This girl was his first long-distance relationship. She lived near his mom's place, so when he moved away to live with his dad, they were talking online the whole time, professing their passionate virtual love for each other. So, timeline-wise, I don't think he forgot about this one. I think it's just that it was going on at the same time as some of his other relationships, and it might look a little disingenuous if he was like so passionate and obsessed and once-in-a-lifetime soulmates and wanted to get married to this girl while also having his online side hoe this whole time. What a grody little freak he is. Anyway, when he gets back to his mom's place, there's no IRL spark with this girl, so they don't end up together. Fast forward a bit, he's got another girlfriend. Are the only significant experiences he's ever had in his life acquiring the females and sometimes getting into fights with people. Anyway, this new girlfriend, she does drugs and alcohol, which is bad, and once led to her being assaulted while intoxicated. Me surrounding myself with women all the time and hearing their horror stories about men only increased my feminism and hero complex. Did I mention, though, that she got assaulted because she made her body impure with drugs and alcohol, though? I was raised with 3 women and no men around the majority of the time. This turned me into a massive, woman sympathizer and feminist in training. Looking back on that, it was toxic to me. It gave me this idea that women were all heroes and men were all villains, when in reality, women can be just as evil and then some. Wow, that's like so cool and brave of him to finally learn how to hate women. After all this time, I was always the person to hold them, tell them I'm there for them, and curse the men who hurt them. It was just my role to play, the guy who holds people as they cry about what others have done. But then he's like, you know, actually, I don't know how many of those women were like probably just lying about suffering abuse just to get back at their exes who hurt them emotionally. I hear that's really common actually. I hear that's like way more common than people think for women to just lie about being abused. Just so you know, like just so you know, in case that's relevant to anything. So yeah, talking about the current girlfriend, his dick doesn't work because he feels like she doesn't love him enough. She breaks up with him and he sends her long abusive rants about how she ripped his heart out. You know, he apologized afterwards because he only did it because he was hurt, because he has so many sensitive emotions and he just needs to be loved. He also seems to know a lot about the, like, where are they now of his high school girlfriends, which tells me he's absolutely internet stalking all of them from his smelly onion basement for the validation of knowing that they have mediocre jobs or ugly husbands now. Now he wants to talk about the girl who he says inspired his first novel, Stones to Abigail. If you haven't seen my video about that book, imagine like the shittiest, most misogynistic draft of John Green's Looking for Alaska written by an illiterate 11-year-old. That's kind of what Stones to Abigail is. It's generous to call her a manic pixie dream girl because that implies personality traits. She doesn't have any. She has alluring arms and she says nice things to him. But she's also like tragic and has daddy issues. So anyway, this girl who apparently inspired the character Abigail, she's in his class. He's convinced they're getting married and having 7 kids, but she doesn't know it yet. So he passes her a note one day. This is gonna go so well. In that note, I said to her that I understood her. Just looking in her eyes and talking to her, it was like I knew all about her whole life. So I wrote about what I assumed I knew of her life in this note. When I called her on the phone that night, I learned very quickly she was not happy with me. In fact, she was crying. She said the note I wrote was essentially horrible. She gave me a huge, "how dare you write me that" reaction that confused me. Not long after, she got a boyfriend, and when he heard I liked her, he wrote me saying that I was a pathetic loser and went on to talk about how much he enjoyed having sex with her, knowing that he could and I couldn't. My thoughts were, see, this is what I was talking about. She surrounds herself with people who just use her and don't care about her at all. And that was it. I rarely saw her again. And he just feels so bad because she's like, seems so cool and interesting, and I'm sure her arms are super alluring. And she just surrounds herself with bad people because they're not him. So he wrote a book where she would want to date him, which is super normal and so much better than that girl's WWE RPF. There's another girl. She comes over to his house and they spoon and watch South Park, but he's not attracted to her. I looked forward to those moments because I finally had a relationship with a female that was purely platonic and totally comforting. Greg value a woman without having access to her body challenge, level 1 million. He can only be friends with women if they are women who he also finds attractive and hypothetically could get with. Oh, this is also when he invents his religion. He thinks he can literally fix all human suffering, global warming, all of it, etc. So he writes it all down in his funny little Word document, and he gets this girl who is his great platonic friend to read it. As a result, she yelled at me about how stupid my ideas were and never talked to me again. So she must have been some kind of a weird Christian bigot. Who would have known? Chapter, Death of My Best Friend. Wait, he has friends? He has No, you're clickbaiting me, Gregory. Oh my god, okay, he apparently forgot about this part too. So we're going back in time again. This book no longer has any semblance of a chronological timeline. Buddy boy, it's your book. You can go back. You can scroll back and you can go and you can type, you can edit the book. But he's not going to, because it's not about creating a meaningful text or even a coherent text. It's about defending himself against grooming allegations and Facebook stalking his exes from when he was 14 and structuring sentences like a dipshit because he thinks it makes him sound smart. I think somebody should give him a thesaurus. I think that would really crank things up to a level. I already covered being 15, but something else was going down around the time I was 15. I had a very close friend. He was awesome and will always be remembered as awesome. Except when you didn't remember to mention him, even though you already discussed this phase of your life. Whenever I didn't have a girlfriend around, he was there to hang out with and just play games to kill time. He says that they made comedy videos together, which they couldn't really edit or do anything with at the time, so it was just VHS tapes of them telling jokes. My friend was really harsh with the truth sometimes. If I made a song he didn't think was very good, he'd say it. In fact, he thought pretty much all of my music sucked.
I believe your lies, give us 14 tries. What do you care? It's not your heart that dies. No, it's me, it's always me.
This friend is older than Greg. I think he said 2 years older, so he graduates high school before him and immediately moves away after he graduates to become a missionary. He writes Greg letters, which Greg never responds to because he's not an attractive female and therefore worthless. Many years later, Greg is going through some of his old stuff. He finds these letters that he ignored and decides to call up his old friend, his best friend, his super good friend, only to be told by this friend's mother that the friend actually passed away years ago from a blood condition. The mom makes sure to tell Greg that she remembers him and she knows how good of a friend Greg always was. Yeah, I'm sure that happened. He fantasizes about being a time traveler so he could go back and tell this friend about his medical condition and save his life. Even though in this hypothetical time travel situation, Greg would then have to also relive all of his teenage breakups, but he would do it. It would be worth it to save his friend because although very short, that friendship was so meaningful. Doesn't he hate religious people? And this friend was a missionary? Are we not going to talk about that? No, we're just going to glaze over that and we're going to milk this guy he vaguely might have played a video game with one time in high school dying as if it was somehow so important to his life. Then he's like, anyway, I knew another guy who died once too. Another person I lost, who was more of a bully than a friend, was someone I would later work with in the military. I thought he was so handsome. I'm talking about a guy that's around my height, 5 feet 11 inches, had tan skin, black hair, and big muscles. He kind of looked like a Pacific Islander, but more handsome. You absolute putrid, festering, month-old onion at the back of the fridge. This enemy, I guess we'll say, was hilarious in my opinion. We got posted on the job together a couple of times, and all this guy would do was insult me. We're talking 9 to 11 hours a day, driving around Tinker Air Force Base in a big blue van, roasting me. He would tell me about how dumb I am, how useless I am, how lame and incapable he thought I was, stuff like that. My reaction, I was ear to ear smiling whenever I got to be posted with him because his insults were said in a way that was funny. It was like a Comedy Central roast with this guy. He was smart, one of the most handsome guys I ever knew. You could not pay me to unpack this man's daddy alpha male issues. Anyway, this guy later died in a motorcycle accident, and then Greg's like, you know, speaking of people who died, since we're speaking of people who died, did you know that I almost died once? When I was 2, I fell down. Oh my god, I don't care. I don't care. He starts making this whole big thing about how childhood accidents happen. He doesn't hold it against his neighbors for that time that their kid drowned in the pool because, you know, everybody hates helicopter parents, but like, they also hate parents if anything happens while they're not watching. Like, it's so hypocritical. Childhood accidents just happen sometimes, okay? So yeah, thanks guys. I had a great time writing this chapter because it wasn't about women. Yay! Sometimes you gotta take a break and write about boys. But we all know women run the world because if we don't say they do, they torture us. Haha, so it's just a break. Chapter 0 to Hero. Greg worked at a daycare and had a hot but bitchy girl boss. She would bring multiple men to the daycare and have her little dramas with them, all the while kids around. Pretty sure one dude was her husband and the other was her boyfriend. Pretty ridiculous stuff. Okay, but you did that too, Gregory. You had a ridiculous throuple involving women over 10 years younger than you in your house with your young children. This whole book, he's just like, hee hee, but what if I condemned the things I'm accused of / have done? Please believe me, court system. Greg's mom started asking him to pay rent when he was 17, and he didn't want to, so he left her house and moved in with his grandma instead. I overheard my grandma talking on the phone about how I'm basically jobless and aimless. It stung to hear that, just a bit. What a blow to my ego. It was time for me to take drastic action. He has a hero complex after all, so the military sounds perfect for him. He acknowledges, you know, in retrospect, the older, more knowledgeable Greg who is narrating this book acknowledges that this was primarily due to American propaganda, implies that the military is not going to turn out to be what he originally thought it was going to be. He doesn't hear anything regarding his acceptance to the military for a while, So now, having pissed off his grandmother, he moves in with his eldest sister and her husband and becomes a plumber's apprentice briefly. While I worked with the commercial plumbers, one of the guys stopped me and said, "You look like you don't belong here. Like you're supposed to be doing something else." I had no idea what he meant, other than my ego screaming in the back of my head, "You're special, Greg. You should be like a comedian or something." It could also have been the fact that I drew Helper Monkey on my hard hat with a bunch of different cartoons and had major issues bonding with the other guys because of being hazed, as well as my inability to degrade women. So he got fired from being a plumber's apprentice, but it was obviously because he was too funny and feminist for them. Lucky for him, the Air Force calls him back. Chapter The Fourth Wall. Okay, so this is apparently his chill chapter. He's just gonna like ramble. He's been working so hard on this literary masterpiece that this chapter, he just gets to ramble about like his mental state for a while. Follow your dreams. Live life to the fullest. Look within yourself. I don't know, some HomeSense poster shit. Is he trying to be a cult leader again? Then he starts ranting about how illogical other people are, and aren't people so illogical for caring about school shootings instead of things that kill way more people, like cancer? So crazy and illogical. It's not like one of those things is shockingly violent, senseless, and preventable, therefore much more outraging. No, it's definitely that people only pretend to care about gun violence for moral clout. He is concerningly obsessed with shootings. Chapter U.S. Air Force Basic Training. I find it incredibly strange that people base their value on how much others approve of them. Why would you need to be validated? If you know everyone has been rejected before, everyone has failed before, most everyone has been dumped or told to fuck off at some point or other, everyone feels pain, and everyone regularly finds themselves incapable of doing something. We are all losers and winners. No escaping it. What I'm saying here is, it is strange to criticize others for what you yourself have been through. Have you, dear viewer, ever fucked up before? You ever been broken up with before? If so, stop criticizing Onision for dating teenage girls. We're all the same broken people inside, don't you see? He talks about his doubts, his struggles, to be his authentic, deeply off-putting self, or to please society like all the other fake people. And maybe he's just deluding himself about how special he is and he should just give up. No, it can't be that. He's definitely a very, very special boy. Believe in yourself. Anyway, back to the military. My training instructor was hot as hell. I was just about to say that this is really shaping up to be the most tolerable part of the book, considering there's no women around him. This hot trainer was apparently extremely abusive and manipulative, creative in her punishments. She would withhold their mail and say they didn't deserve it, which is illegal. But you know, Greg is still, he's such a male feminist that he rats out another recruit for saying that he wants to punch this female trainer. Because violence is never okay. And he's also secretly in love with her. He loves older women, okay? Not teenage ones! This woman apparently has some serious issues. She later ends up being kicked out for punching a trainee. But like I said, she was hot. It's like how even serial killers have fangirls. Chapter, My Lost Journal. Since writing the last chapter, Greg has found his old journal from when he first joined the Air Force. So instead of like going back, editing the previous chapters to include his memories from back then, this chapter is just going to include those journals, unedited, typed up. His weight and body are flawless. He's a tryhard who asks the recruiters lots of polite boy questions, unlike everyone else. Even back then, he's writing as if he's writing to an audience. Who are you talking to? Has there ever been genuine self-reflection, or has it always just been preaching to an audience? A few words to the now wise. If you have extensive law violations, use drugs, are overweight, did not graduate high school, or have been to a psychiatrist for personal problems, you are probably not going to qualify for the Air Force. Knowing this makes me even more proud to be a part of an already great military power. So he loves being in the military because it makes him feel superior to other people. He starts going on a weird patriotic rant about how he'll put his life on the line for this great nation of America. In the heat of summer, I will train for me. I will train for you. In the heat of strength, I will work for me. I will work for you. In the heat of war, I will fight for me. I will fight for you. And if the time comes, I will have lived for me. I will die for you. It is becoming clear as I read more of this that he was in fact posting this somewhere, like some kind of blog or website that he would have had back then. Anyway, enough of all that. Back to modern day Onion describing his memories. He goes through basic training, which is super grueling and isolating. Honestly, this is shaping up to be the most readable part of the book. It's still a complete, disorganized, terribly written mess, but at least I can forget for a few paragraphs what a trash can he is, and that's really impressive. His mom, his sister, and a female friend come to visit him and take him out for a day in San Antonio. This female friend, I believe, is to be his first wife. I assume he hasn't mentioned anything about their relationship before because she would probably have some problems with that. He says that in San Antonio he had a panic attack because the real world was just such a shock to him. So he ends up staying at the hotel with his female friend, who he says is also his ex that he's kind of broken up with now, but they're kind of still together. She's like depressed and unemotional and he wants to fix her. Cool, gross. At the end of this chapter, he graduates basic and feels very accomplished. Chapter Crisis with Me. This chapter, I want to be a bit of a break from the sequence of events. That's every chapter. There is no sequence of events! This chapter is less about the previous chapter trends and more about the mind behind those chapters. I thought we did this already. First, I need to address the elephant in the room, and that is myself. I'm apologizing to myself? I screwed up so bad talking to myself here, and I really let you down, me. I don't give you enough credit, I don't give you enough respect, and I let the outside world ruin you. For so long, I put your heart on your sleeve for anyone to take a shot at, and it was so unfair of me. I forget about you and let everyone else consume all my energy to the point where I couldn't even see you anymore. And for that, again, still talking to myself, I'm sorry. I hope one day you can forgive me. In response to myself, I forgive you. Amazing. Glad you guys worked that one out. This is where all of you who downloaded this book illegally get more free help and life advice that comes from real, horribly painful experience. Lucky you. Wish I had this advice. The life advice is, what you surround yourself with, you become. Which is to say, if you criticize him, that's negative energy and you're gonna become a bitter, mean person if you criticize him. Other than that, he's just saying shit. Realization, experience, reflect, grow, purpose, discovery, relationship, happiness, self-help buzzword. He's not saying shit right now. I recently heard someone saying that ADHD, a disorder which impacts your ability to focus on certain things, will cause some people who have it not to think very far into the future at any given moment. This lack of foresight causes people to react to the potential for stimulation or active stimulation with disregard for the consequences. Fortunately for me, I have never been diagnosed with this disorder. Okay, I have, so let's see what he has to say about ADHD. The description of ADHD does, however, tell me I am better off with issuing sincere apologies than many. What? You read a definition of ADHD that said some people who are diagnosed with it lack foresight. That's his scientific, math science data, based on his opinion that he is good at apologies, and therefore better than a certain subset of people with ADHD. Got it. When I talk about being sorry for being stuck in a rut and losing sight of the big picture, I want you to think about something. What happens when you walk in on your parents doing it? I know, crazy example, but bear with me. When you walk in on your parents, do you forever look at your parents differently? Do you also look at knocking before you enter a room differently? The answer is yes, of course you do. That is what I mean when I talk about epiphany. That is what I mean when I say this apology, while easy to say, is different than others I have made in the past to myself and others. You don't forget to knock on the door anymore. You don't look at your parents the same ever again. And in my case, you don't forget what happened when you were pulled in the mud. A lot of us lose the opportunity to be ourselves, to live our dreams and remain true to ourselves. We forget to listen to ourselves and, most importantly, love the person we are deep down. My brain is bleeding. Call an ambulance. Chapter, book complete. Why do I want to share my story with people? I generally dislike people online because they are all words with zero accountability. Who is primarily reading this book? Probably people online. Imagine how many beautiful works of art, amazing stars, and wonderful productions we would have in the world if all the amazingly smart/talented people weren't too intelligent to commit social suicide by becoming famous in the first place. The parasitic sewer dwellers scared all the real talent away. He goes on for multiple pages about how some hypothetical, talented, intelligent artist might be ripped apart by the parasitic mobs who make up lies because it pays well. The world is saturated with numerous piles of shit that lurk around in human skin. So, do you want those piles of waste looking at you? Do you want those people to try and insert themselves into your life and drain you for all your worth like the brainless parasites they are? Well, sounds like you're an idiot. Me too, really, once upon a time. I desired that imbecilic existence. He is going to close the book with a numbered list of pieces of advice for being famous. Very hinged. Extremely hinged man. Lesson 1, don't trust anyone. Most people, just selfish and evil. Lesson 2, remember to live your own life. Prioritize the personal over the public. Fame and followers mean absolutely nothing because, you know, he had a huge fan base and they all turned on him for no reason. No reasons. Just because humans are inherently evil. Lesson 3, don't try and make real celebrity friends. I've known many celebrities. They will most all drop you like a bag of dog shit if they think you aren't going to help them forward their careers. I knew a guy named Toby, and he was friends with a guy named Jack. Toby had a random psycho fan accuse him of horrible things, as psycho fans have done to many celebrities, and as a result, Jack abandoned Toby completely. Wait, I think I know what this is about. Yeah. Lesson 4, don't romanticize people. Once again, everyone is shit and will backstab you just for a few little abuse allegations. Lesson 5, don't be generous, don't be a hero, nice guys always finish last. Everyone is shit and will backstab you just for a few abuse allegations. He's really just repeating himself with different wording so far. I feel like you could condense this list into like 3 good, pithy pieces of advice. Lesson 7, have a professional handle your finances. No way. That's crazy. Lesson 8, don't do drugs. For some reason, a lot of you have a really hard time doing the same as me, staying clean, because you're really stupid. Like painfully daft, obviously. But guess what? We're all dumb, just different versions of it. Don't feel too bad. I mean, if you felt bad, you'd probably just go do more drugs, because that's what you people do anyway. Lesson 9, don't associate with people who do illegal drugs. Aw, fuck. What about my 3 weed-smoking girlfriends? Lesson 10. Don't be fucking famous, idiot. Nothing says fuck with me more than being famous. How stupid could you be? So yeah, those lessons will probably save lives. Literally. Haha, I'm just dumb though. This is not professional advice, so you can't sue me if it somehow fucks up your life. By the way. But like I said, I thought about going on talking about my life to all of you, but that would imply I think most of you would listen. Like, truly listen. I don't think you would. I don't talk to people like you in real life, so why the fuck would I write a book for you? Lol. Imagine you're reading any other book, and the last chapter the author just goes, yeah, I don't really feel like continuing this anymore. It's kind of boring. Also, I don't really think you're even, like, smart enough to get it. So, no more book for you. He throws in a little validation for his real fans at the end, though. I'm not worried about losing any genuine fans because they aren't mentally defective like the others. In reality, I never really lost any fans at any point in my career. If you lost the support of someone calling themselves a fan, all you did was cut the dead weight. A fraud who said they cared about you, but clearly never really did. Caring about someone means never criticizing them or holding them accountable or changing your opinion about them if they turn out to be a child groomer. So that's it. That's the 4th fucking Onion book. I read it. I hated it. Now you don't have to read it. Like and subscribe. Support me on Patreon. I got a Discord server. I got exclusive stickers. It's fun over there. Thank you so much for watching, my friends. I will see you in another video very soon.